All right, so this is actually my very first attempt at this, and I'm going to be doing it in one take. So bear with me. We're going to do some art journaling today, and I'm um, feeling very naturey. I'm feeling very grassy. So that's kind of what I want to be working on. I've masked off a little part of my journal here to give myself some space to come back and do a little bit of writing if I want. I'm going to be using a couple of different shades of green, and the fun thing I think about art journaling is it really doesn't matter. This is for me. If you're following along, it's going to be for you. So you can use the colors that I'm using, and I'll show you which one I'm using. This is student grade paint. It's Liquitex Basics Acrylic in light green permanent. And I'm going for a couple of different shades of green here to give that grass sort of texture and feeling, because of course, as we know, grass is not one shade of green. So this is Amsterdam, also student grade acrylic painting, Sap Green. So a little bit of a darker green there. And let's see, I've got another Amsterdam. This is permanent green dark. So we're going to put a little bit of this on the palette. I'm not doing this in any particular fancy order. I'm trying to make this as quick and easy and simple and fun without really worrying about anything like difficult techniques, so that it's easy for me, for you, for anyone who wants to do it. This is olive green, also Amsterdam. I tend to use Amsterdam and Liquitex student grade acrylics in my art journals. Here's a bright aqua green Liquitex, and I feel like, all right, we've got a handful of greens here, and that's going to be a good starting point. So I'm wanting to do a little bit of a fade to start from my ground. So I'm going to start dark here at the bottom, and I'm just going to grab some of my sap green and paint it directly on my paper. I'm using kind of small strokes and going straight up. I have an interesting way of holding the paintbrush, just like I have an interesting way of trying to get my whole edge covered here of writing. This has always been, I've been told I hold things strangely, so you don't have to hold your brush. Hold your brush like you would hold a pencil. I'm just making these little small strokes. This is my background. I'm not worried about much here because I'm planning on putting a second layer of paint for sure on here. Now, you notice that I have this layer of parchment paper taped down underneath my my top level here. That's so that I don't make a big giant mess on all of my journal pages. I'm just making these little small strokes in a vertical direction because, once again, I want this to feel grassy. You want a heavier grade paper for any kind of art journaling. You can see this paper is already kind of starting to buckle. I'm going to, once it's dried some, press it. This is a new color. So this time I'm working with the dark green, and I'm just grabbing right down into the sap green and pulling it up a little bit. But you can see how quickly acrylic paint dries on this loose paper. If you're working with canvas, you have a little bit more time, but on the paper, it's quick, which is actually what I love about it. I know a lot of people don't like acrylic paint because it dries so quickly. You can extend your paint by adding medium. They make all kinds of fabulous mediums that you can utilize, but let's see, I'm not even washing my brush, as you can tell. I'm going to grab this light green permanent now, coming from the dark green into the light green. Looking for that kind of color change, color fade. This is not a smooth color gradient. I'm going to do that in a different video. I don't need it to be because once again, I'm going for a grassy feel. So I'm just kind of pulling down into the dark and making these little small strokes with my big flat brush. I love it. Already feels like grass to me. I haven't even done anything else to it. It's a pretty big piece of paper. You don't have to go this large, especially if it's your first journal. All right, last color. I'm going to use that olive green. And I put some down. Almost has a yellow feel to it. You can certainly do this with straight yellow. It'll mix beautifully into the green. But I'm just drawing up little small strokes. You see how I'm actually pulling way down in there now a little bit. Finishing at the top. I want some of that texture and variation I have because I haven't washed my brush to kind of come through the whole piece now. So I'm letting any excess color on my brush be a part of this top layer. That's it. This is my ground. So we're not done, but we could be, right? If you like this, this could be it. This could be all you do. Maybe do some mixed media, cut out some magazine bits and pieces and glue it on here. Still a little bit damp, and I like that because I'm going to want to add a little bit more green to it. I want some texture, so I'm going to come back in here and grab that Sap Green again. And a little higher than I was last time, making little tiny strokes. This is going to feel like shadows in the grass, coming down to where you can see that the greens are a little translucent. So if you want it to be more opaque, you're going to have to put a second layer on, which I like this really dark down here at the bottom. So I'm coming back in. Oh, and that's what you get when you don't wash your brush. You get some leftover paint. I love that, actually. Look at that. That looks grassy. Throw in some of that bright olive green down there on the still slightly damp sap green. I'm going to do that same thing. I'm going to actually do that on purpose now. Grab a little bit more of the olive green. Let's just make some little tiny strokes. Also still going up. Still the same brush. Big flat brush. Gonna get into a lot of these different greens now. This is the fun part for me. We're art journaling. It doesn't have to be something that I'm gonna sell. It doesn't have to be something that's even visually appealing, which is a little bit hard, I think, to get used to when you're first starting out with painting, is that, or art journaling in particular, is that letting go of the desire to make something beautiful and just make something. Anything. That's the thing. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to grab more of this light green, some brightness up here. Just pull that light green down into the sap green and into the dark green. It does not matter. This is not over for me either. Like I'm doing all these little textural bits, but this is still all background because I have some ideas and some thoughts for what I might want to do on this page. This is grass, so a grassy field, maybe. I'm imagining something growing here, so maybe this is going to be all about a flower, or flowers, or insects. I love painting insects, so maybe I'll put some insects on here. I'm not actually concerned about the final piece yet. I'm just putting this ground on. Different colors, different greens. So we haven't touched this bright aqua green yet. I think I'm going to actually go to a different brush. So I'm going to put my big flat brush away, and I'm going to grab maybe a slightly thinner brush. This one has some stiffness to the bristles. So I'm just going to tap this. Grab a little bit of that aqua green, tap it off so there's not a lot on there, and I'm just going to come in and kind of tap, 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 tap. So this gives me some variation, that feeling that there's something off in the distance. This is maybe farther away, small. And if you don't like it, you can change it. That's the wonderful thing I think about acrylic paints. When I first discovered acrylic paints, I came from silk painting. And with silk painting, there is no room for error. It's fun. It's a lot of fun. I love that art form. But once a color is down, it's down, it's done. There's no way to change it. And acrylic painting is the opposite. Nothing has to be permanent. You can go back and fix, change, anything you want. It can always be painted over. You can, with art journaling, you can rip it out. If you hate it, it doesn't matter. So this is just, it's like an exercise in letting go. It's an exercise in just not caring. It's an exercise in not judging yourself. And it's just, let's see what we can make here. This is that bright aqua green. Just doing the whole page. I wasn't planning on doing the whole page. Isn't that fun? You don't even know what's going to happen. Take some up top. I might go back in. Look, that's starting to look kind of grassy. I want a little bit more of my brighter green. Now, it's interesting because your brighter green is going to show up more here where you already have a good bit of lightness, but down here in the dark, it's almost like doing just a little bit of a highlight. And especially here, painting the light green over the aqua. Still very wet. Gonna give me just a little bit of that grassy texture. So much color, so much green. There are so many different ways you can make different shades of green. We all know that blue and yellow together makes green, but you can add more yellow, you can add more blue, you can add white, make a slightly lighter green, brighter green, darker green. This is one of the things from my landscape paintings. There's never just one green. It's always lots and lots of greens. I think I counted at one point and I had like 30 different greens. And you can start just with your blue and your yellow and make all your own, or you can purchase different greens. I've found that different brands of paints have different types of translucency, slightly different hue, and that really can add depth to your painting. It goes a long way, the paint, and this is all student grade. So it's relatively accessible. All right, I think I'm getting to a point where I'm pretty happy with what's happening here. I'd like a little bit more darkness to kind of come up. I don't want to make, ooh, that maybe got too dark right there, but like I said, I can fix it. So just kind of tapping these smaller brush strokes. So I don't like what happened right here. Got a little too dark for me. So this time I am actually going to rinse my brush a little bit. I don't want a lot of water on the brush, but I do have my water back here so I can rinse my brush. And I'm just going to grab, let's do this, let's do our light olive green, and kind of go back over there where the sap got a little out of control and brighten. Don't want to too dark, too high up. I like the feeling that I've got here going from dark into light. You see some light down here, but mostly it's still a kind of a gradient. So I'm gonna keep that. And now we're gonna pause. We're gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna come back to it in part 2 and see what comes from this piece. So I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know if you followed along. I'd love to see what you came up with. Have a great day.